Hello again, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Vang. That was amazing. Okay, so I'm going to get into a little bit of a different topic. We're going to talk about beauty insights across all different types of demographics. And I want to start off by saying that when you are looking to acquire different technology, aesthetic-based technologies, you really have to have a grasp on who is walking into your practice, who your demographic actually is, and why? Because every patient that walks into your practice is going to have a unique set of needs and expectations as well. So as I begin to kind of discuss these different demographics and talk about the treatments that can benefit them, I really want you to kind of make your own menus. Start thinking about not only what demographic you actually have in your area, but also what treatment and packages you can give them so they get the best outcomes. All right, so some key things you want to consider. So number one, can your technology and your practice treat all skin types? Now, when we talk about first-generation lasers, they were very limited in terms of what they were able to treat. We weren't able to treat all Fitzpatrick skin types. So that means we were kind of just treating maybe a skin type like Nicole Kidman. But since then, we've really kind of migrated over to newer technologies that give us the ability to treat everyone from Nicole Kidman all the way to Denzel Washington, which is amazing. So that's definitely something that you want to look for. Additionally, you have to ask yourself, can I offer treatments for every age group? Now, this is where a multi-platform system like a V-Series would come into play. And I'm going to dive into it a little bit more down the road in this presentation. But more oftentimes than not, as we age, we have more than one concern, right? Our patients are coming in, and it's not just hyperpigmentation. Maybe it's laxity as well. So different technologies are going to be stronger doing different things, and you have to take that into consideration. And then lastly, you want to look at, do you have treatments that are good for your male clientele? Okay, so when we talk about our male clients, your male clients may be initially seeking a treatment that is going to be more comfortable. So technologies that you could consider from Sinclair North America would be something like the VST or the V-Form. Now, both of these handpieces utilize radiofrequency technology. And when we talk about radiofrequency, when it hits the skin, it's foreign. The body doesn't know what to do, so our cells begin to oscillate. When that happens, we generate heat, and that heat is going to give us different biological responses. When we talk about VST, we're getting skin tightening, we're getting neocollagenesis. When we talk about V-Form, in addition to skin tightening, we can also shrink the fat cells and help contour the body. Your male patients could also benefit from something like the Pristine. The Pristine is a diamond tip microdermabrasion, and it is necessary to do before every and all treatments because it's going to exfoliate the stratum corneum, that superficial layer of the skin. When we do that, all of the technologies subsequently can now penetrate more accurately into the depths that we need them to go to. To piggyback off of that, Dermafuse is a great adjunct treatment. Now, Dermafuse uses a process called electroporation. Dr. Hendrickson had touched upon this earlier, so I won't spend too much time on it. But all in all, it pretty much allows us to create these microchannels in the skin to allow serums to penetrate to where they actually need to go, as opposed to just placing a topical on the skin. So it's great as a standalone. It's also great in addition with, or in combination with other technologies. Our pre-made dermafacial system obviously is an amazing go-to. It is so relaxing. We were talking next year about having like a massage chair or like some type of like reflexology or something in combination with that. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing? So that's definitely a comfortable treatment. And then lastly, Energet. Energet is a very comfortable treatment. We also have to take a look at whether treatments are cost-effective for the male clientele. And this can pertain to not just males, this can pertain to everybody. But typically, you want to just make sure that you're addressing your membership and loyalty programs with them. Now, when Aaliyah was talking a little bit about statistics earlier on yesterday, she had mentioned that millennials are really driving the market, right? So for our millennial male clientele, this would definitely be beneficial. 81% of these millennials also are interested in exploring these loyalty and membership programs and are more likely to move forward and purchase treatments if those are associated with them. So some technologies you could consider that are cost-effective for not only your patient, but for you as well in terms of consumables are going to be your Pristine again, your Dermafuse, your Prime, the VST, the V-Form, and the VIPL. Now, we haven't gotten a chance to talk about the VIPL yet, but your IPL stands for Intense Pulse Light. So this is like your traditional I guess you could call it photofacial. Now, with our technology specifically, we have 6 different wavelengths that you can work with, and that gives us many opportunities to treat so many different things, which is very, very, very nice. This is where it comes into play, where we can treat all 6 Fitzpatrick skin types as well because of the different wavelengths that we have. Additionally, we have to look at downtime. Maybe your male clientele doesn't want downtime, right? Well, no worries, we have something for you. The VST, the Pristine, Dermafuse, the Premay, the V-Form, IPL, and the Energet are all great. And then lastly, quick treatments might be more popular. I know when I was working in practice, the VST was really popular, not just for male clientele, but also for female clientele. They could come in on their lunch break, they would get the VST treatment, they were done in a half hour, and they got a little instant gratification out of it, good to go, back to work. Nobody knew a thing. So in addition to that, the VST, you could also utilize the Premay, the Pristine, the Dermafuse, IPL, Energet, V-Form, and then our ND YAG. Now, how many of you are familiar with our ND YAG, by a show of hands? Okay, we have a couple people in the room here. So an ND YAG is a 1064 nanometer wavelength. So when we talk about these wavelengths, or a wavelength as such, we're working with what's called the infrared. The infrared gives us the ability to kind of target the water in the skin. When we do that with this laser, what happens is it speeds up the life cycle of our skin cells. So when we do that, we get a nice, beautiful glow. Skin rejuvenation. Okay. Now, when we're talking about Gen Y and Gen Z, a lot of times your patients are coming in younger for what we call gateway treatments. But luckily for us, there's so many of those. So technologies you want to consider here are going to be your Elysian for hair removal, your IPL for hair removal, then your ND YAG for hair removal. All of these technologies are safe for all 6 Fitzpatrick skin types. But when we talk about the IPL has 3 specific wavelengths that give us the ability to target hair. So whether you are Fitzpatrick 2, like myself, or you're a Fitzpatrick 6, we can treat everybody, which is amazing. Now, the ND YAG, because it's a longer wavelength, the longest that we have on our platform, that's going to be best suited for a Fitzpatrick 5 or 6 if they just have a small area of concern, maybe like an underarm that they want treated, both underarms, not one, or maybe the upper lip. So you have something for everyone. Now, I always get so excited to talk about this, but when we talk about acne, whenever I would have a patient come in, I would say, well, we have a short-term plan for you, but we also have a long-term plan for you. Because not only is an issue active acne typically if somebody's coming to you at that point, it's also the underlying scarring that's happened because they've had this acne for so long. So when we talk about active acne, and we're looking to clear that, we can utilize the Pristine, the IPL, our Dermafuse, and the and the Premay. I'm skipping myself here. Once we get to the acne scars, now we can utilize a couple different technologies. We can go from Pristine to VFR. We have Inopen, the Dermafuse, and the Energet. So if I had a patient come in with active acne and the scarring, I'd probably treat them as follows. I would start off by using the Pristine, so this way I can exfoliate the skin. Then I would go in with our 415 nanometer wavelength. It's blue light. And does anybody know what happens when we put blue light on the skin? A chemical reaction occurs, okay? And this chemical reaction actually breaks down the cell wall of our acne bacteria. So when that happens and it oxidizes, reduces the appearance of it. The next thing I would go in with is my 580 filter, because now that 580 filter is gonna help regulate or shrink the sebaceous glands and prevent further acne from coming down the road. So I'm throwing so much information at you guys right now, but we have all of these resources on our portal for you, talking about the combination therapies. So, say your patient does that, now the acne's good, right? Well, how do we treat these boxcar scars, these rolling scars, these ice pick scars that we're left with time? Well, traditionally, what you would see a lot of people do is something called a subcision, right? And a subcision is when you're kind of taking a needle and you're fanning underneath the skin to kind of release those fibrous bands. Well, that's pretty darn uncomfortable. If any of you have had the opportunity to listen to Dr. Carniel speak, he's a plastic surgeon that has our Energet, he talks about how when we have acne scars on the skin and you have to perform subcisions, it's almost like kind of conducting multiple surgeries at once on the face, and it's very uncomfortable. You have to continuously numb the patient. So now if you're using something like Energet gives you the opportunity to not only de-anchor those fibrous bands, but also now create a microinjury where we can stimulate that collagen and elastin production, like Dr. Vang was saying yesterday. So again, short-term plan and long-term plan. Now, when we talk about body contouring and cellulite reduction, a lot of Gen Y and Z are kind of looped into the GLP-1 craze right now because social media has made the world a smaller place, right? So everybody's familiar with those. So you might have a lot of people coming in who are on these GLP-1s, like the semaglutide, the tirzepatide. They're looking for ways to kind of facilitate this process of healthy living and to look better, right? So you can utilize the V-Form and the Dermafuse as well. The Dermafuse comes into play because we have a serum that can actually help facilitate the process of shrinking the fat cells in addition to using radiofrequency beforehand. We can also treat hyperpigmentation. So we can use our IPL to do that. IPL can coagulate the excess melanin, break it into small little pieces, so this way the body can just take it away. Those little Pac-Man cells come in and do their thing. Then we have our Pristine, of course. We have our VFR and our Dermafuse to help facilitate that as well. Then lastly, we have our pore size and oily skin. We can additionally use that Pristine, IPL, VFR, and Dermafuse, and I don't want to run out of time here. Then for hydration, if somebody comes in with dry skin, which is myself recently, we have the Dermafuse and we have the Energet. Now the Dermafuse has a hydration serum, and that hydration serum, again, allows us to infuse hyaluronic acid deeper into the skin using that electroporation, creating those microchannels. What the Energet does is, pneumatically, it can inject dilute hyaluronic acid into the skin to reestablish the hyaluronic acid that we lose with age. So with that being said, when we use the Energet for something like this, we'll have a better bounce back to the skin, a reduction in lines and wrinkles as well. Okay. Something else that has become very popular among Gen Y and Gen Z is the topic of prejuvenation instead of rejuvenation. How many of you have seen on TikTok, there's like 10-year-olds that are using retinol in their skincare routine, and they're like little micro-influencers now? I see it everywhere. Yeah, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these girls do not need retinol yet. But again, because social media has made the world such a small place, everyone's kind of, listening to one another, and they're all interested in the new little trends that we can do to just help ourselves age gracefully. So technologies to consider in this case are going to be your Pristine, your Dermafuse, the Prime, the IPL, and then your ND-YAG again. Lastly, you're going to want to consider something that's cost-effective as well for this generation. Many younger clients may not want to spend as much money on these products, right, or these treatments. So technologies you can look at here would be your Pristine, Dermafuse, Prime, VST, V-Form, and VIPL. Okay. For your mature clients, now you want treatments that pack a punch. So I kind of prefaced earlier with the fact that when we have, or when we're looking to acquire any type of aesthetic medical technology, we want to know, can we treat everybody across all ages, right? And why is because as we age, we have so many different concerns that come up. So having a multi-platform system is huge in this case because now you can combine your treatments to not only maximize your ROI, return on investment, but also maximize your patient's results, which is huge. Again, we do have a lot of specific combination protocols on our portal for our current customers. So if you're interested, you can find all of that information on there. When we talk about the technologies you can consider, you have your VFR, your Energet, your Pristine, Dermafuse, VST, your V-Form, IPL, and YAG. So lots of different things. Now, another growing trend is women's health, right? And it's growing rather quickly in the aesthetic industry. This is where I feel like we almost bridge the gap between aesthetics and medical because I do feel that this can be life-changing for women. But what happens when we age is we begin to lose estrogen. And with estrogen, we get all of these additional not so fun things that happen. One of them is stress urinary incontinence. We get dryness. We get vaginal laxity. So when we talk about a device like VVR, what VVR can help do is vasodilate, but also build up the lamina propria. Now, the lamina propria is actually the part of the tissue that helps support the urethra. Okay? Now, what happens with time is it's filled with all this connective tissue. That begins to be lost, just like we lose the connective tissue in our face, our collagen. So we need that to be reestablished to better support the urethra to reduce that stress urinary incontinence. So by using radiofrequency in the VVR, now you can help reestablish that lamina propria. Additionally, as we age, we see more hyperpigmentation, sunspots, et cetera, all that sun damage, especially if you live here in the Sunshine State, and aging skin. So you can utilize technology like your VIPL as well as your VFR. You can use the V-Form for jowling, which is great, and body laxity. And mind you, these treatments are very, very quick, all of them. Like your V-Form takes about 14 minutes. For the VST, great for aging skin. The Energet, dermal thickening, kinetic facelift. Some of you have had the kinetic facelift this weekend. It's good stuff. Then we have the Pristine and the Dermafuse for skin prepping and just boosting your results. It's a great adjunct treatment. Now, one thing or caveat I should give you all is that as you begin to have patients who are a little bit older, you might notice they may have a couple more contraindications, okay? So you do want to look at their medical surgical history and just make sure that you can still move forward with treatment, or at least that they're obtaining clearance from their overseeing provider ahead of time before they come in and you perform that service for them. But technologies to consider are Pristine, Dermafuse, Premay, and Energet. They're pretty benign and easy, not so aggressive. Okay, so the next slide is going to kind of talk about research insights that have driven the demographics that we're targeting, and also how we strategize how we target those demographics. So as an example, 65 to 70% of those aged 18 to 49 use Instagram, making it an ideal platform for your younger demographics. So again, I already spoke about before and after photos, but you do want to make sure that you are really advertising yourself on these social media platforms, especially because your millennials are driving the aesthetic market right now and they're using them. Additionally, from 2000 to 2018, there was a 29% increase in male clientele coming in to have aesthetic services done. So that industry or sector of the aesthetic industry is growing, and we should cater to this demographic. And then in terms of older population, when we talk about how to target the older population, maybe social media can come into play here. Facebook, I mean, my parents are on Instagram and Facebook. My dad has a Snapchat, which is hilarious. I love it. But 68% of adults, although they use these social media platforms, still like to have their mail sent to them or appreciate a phone call. So I'm not going to get too far into strategizing for these different target generations when we talk about social media, because Aaliyah is going to get into that specifically. But of course, with younger clientele, utilize these social media platforms. If you have any influencers or micro-influencers in the area that are willing to work with you, definitely take advantage of that as well. I know we as a company use social media a lot for tutorials. You know, we give you like little peeks of how you should be doing treatments. You guys probably see Aaliyah on there all the time. And we do live Q&As as well, live so you can kind of get sneak peeks into things. So definitely engage in that way if you can with your younger clientele. And then the older population, we already spoke about. I'm not going to go too far into that because I'm going to run out of time. Okay, so now for the slide I've been waiting for. So when we talk about targeting the male clientele, some things that you can do are maybe advertise for, instead of Botox parties, Brotox parties. And that's going to lead me to my video here, which my fiance is going to kill me because this is his debut, and he has no idea. But this is him in a TikTok, and he was so nice, and he told me that I could make a TikTok and do Botox on him. So here we go. Fun fact, this is a good friend of ours. He almost passed out at the end of this because needles are not his jam, but they were so nice. I was training. It was the first time that I was injecting ever, and they were both good sports. So let's give them a round of applause for that. Thanks, babe. Hopefully this is recorded. He can see that. Okay, so yes, advertising for Botox is great. I also know my fiance is a huge New York Rangers fan, as am I, and if I told him the med spa down the block was raffling off like New York Rangers tickets, he'd be out the door and he'd leave me in the dust. So you can definitely kind of set things up to tailor to that demographic for sure. And then also, the last note I want to make, because I'm running out of time, you could also highlight treatments like hair restoration, hair removal, and then skincare that's tailored to men's needs as well. All right, with that being said, that concludes my presentation. Thank you, guys.